Dadnarok presents the Falcon and Winter Soldier After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we're here. Marvel's back, baby.
Oh yeah, it took forever to get back
1 week
to it.
hiatus.
Man, it seemed like it was almost a year.
I know. Well, we went a long time without Marvel, and they came back with a vengeance with WandaVision, which was a smash hit. You and I enjoyed it. I think the world pretty much enjoyed it.
Oh yeah.
And they had a kind of a week in between as a little breather to prepare us for Sam and Bucky coming back. What'd you think, just right off the top of your head?
I loved it. Honestly, it had a different feel to it. Well, I mean, we kind of discussed it, and I'll take that back a little bit because it didn't really have a different feel to it. It had what we expect of a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It opened up big. It opened up with that, that adventure and everything, the explosions, the fights, the works. But it gave us what a lot of some of the Marvel movies don't give us, and it's that really, really deep, in-depth, like character development.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot about Bucky. We learned a lot about Sam, and going forward. And I loved it. It was at times it was a little slow, but it needed to be to get the point across on what they were trying to give us with those two characters.
That was my first impression too. A lot of table setting in this episode. They got a lot of that out of the way, getting some backstory with Sam's family and seeing where Bucky is currently with his struggle, with his past life. But yeah, we're going to get into it here. Before we begin, if you guys don't know Dadnarok, we're a whole YouTube channel. We're a podcast. We're a bunch of stuff. Go check us out on YouTube. Go to Dadnarok.com. You'll find links to all of our social media pages, including Twitter, Facebook, everywhere Dadnarok is sold.
Give us a like and spread this Dadnarok fun.
Spread what? We're gonna try to not say spread virus anymore because it's just too chilling.
Yeah, right now that's just not something we need to say or even think about. We don't need to be the virus.
So every Friday at 10 p.m., Chris and I are going to go live, talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And we're very interactive. Let us know what you think. If we screw up on something, chime in and we'll address it.
That's right. If you're watching right now, if you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter, go ahead and ask questions, give comments. We'll likely respond if we see him in time. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the episode. I mean, we're back with Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes. So you had kind of mentioned, we were talking a little bit before we got on air here, but this episode really opens up with your standard Marvel action fare, like Falcon flying through some planes to rescue this. What branch of the military was this guy in? Do you know? This young guy.
Honestly, I don't remember.
I'm not sure either, but basically it was one of our military planes was hijacked, and this kind of younger, you could tell he's a little bit wet behind the ears, private or something was on there, and Sam goes to the rescue to take him off this plane, and we actually see his comic book name is Batroc the Leaper. I guess because he jumps really high or something. I don't know, but he's played by George St. Pierre, is it? And you recognized him right away from your time that you used to watch UFC all the time.
Oh yeah, as soon as I seen him, it was right on. I was like, oh, it's GSP. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew the fight scenes were going to be on point with him doing it. They were going to be right there, and it lived up to what I was expecting with the, throwing around. I love when Sam got behind his wings and was taking on the bullets.
Yeah, that was cool. Sometimes with the double wing, sometimes with just the one.
Yeah.
Falcon is he's just like a wizard with the stuff that he can do with his backpack, man.
I didn't know anything about his drone. His drone is just as badass as he is.
Yeah, his little partner in crime. It's funny because in the comics, it was an actual Hulk like an actual Falcon, like a bird that used to do his bidding, and they updated it, of course, for the MCU. Now it's a drone, but super cool.
Yeah, we're not all Harry Potterish.
Yeah.
He has an owl.
Right. But this opening scene, George St. Pierre did an awesome job, as always. He did a great job in The Winter Soldier, the movie against Chris Evans. They had an opening scene that was similar with just throwing those punches with those big booming sound effects, which was a lot of fun. It got you right into it with this action scene. and it opened up with one, and we didn't really get too much of an action scene the rest of the episode. They developed the rest of the episode and or they dedicated it to a lot of character moments, a lot of backstory.
Yeah, no, and even in that main like action scene, I love the guy down in the Hummer. He's looking up and he's cheering. It's like, this is awesome.
Right.
I'm witnessing this firsthand. So
Yeah.
he's all fanboying it down there, not knowing really what's going on.
Yeah, it was super cool, and they have a bit of dialogue after Sam rescues the guy he needs to rescue, and the mission's done. They're kind of sitting in this market, kind of this cafe, and this gentleman comes up to Falcon. He's like, "Oh, you're with the Avengers. You saved my wife. You brought my wife back to me." Just our first inkling of this being kind of the post Blip, I guess, where she might have been blipped out and came back. And,
did you catch the when this is taking place in the timeline?
Not specifically, no.
Yeah, because it didn't say it actually in the show, so I had to look it up. So I knew WandaVision was 2 to 3 weeks afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually 6 months
okay.
after, and then it's still 2 months away from Spider-Man. So it's 6 months and 8 months for Spider-Man. So we're still pre-Spider-Man in the timeline.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured it was going to be something like that. But Falcon is like kind of a celebrity. People are always, like, I recognize you from somewhere. And we see that again later in the episode. But as he's sitting down with this military guy at this cafe, the guy starts talking about a new group of bad guys. They were kind of reminded me of the Foot Clan.
That's exactly how I was describing them to people, like, when we were talking about this show before we really knew anything about it.
Yeah.
Because I kind of see someone like being like Shredder and these guys being the Clan.
Right. They're called the Flag Smashers. I guess they're kind of a radical group of people that believe that there should be no borders, no more countries. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Kind of like, the premise of Imagine or whatever, where there's just no borders, no countries, no flags, Flag Smashers. But of course they're radicalized and they, take their efforts into violent territories, which is never a good thing. So that's where we're at. We are a small introduction with them, and this military guy is kind of investigating it, and and Sam basically tells him, like, if you find anything, just let me know, and we come to that later in the episode.
Yeah, he pretty much says, "Don't get yourself, killed."
Right.
And then this guy goes all gets into a mess.
Yeah.
He winds up, next thing you know, he's got the mask on, and he's just kind of there, and a cop, goes after him. He beats up the cop for a second just to save his own skin.
Right.
And then once he sees the money, he decides to do the stupid thing and pull the gun. And he gets chest kicked into next week. And then he got freaking head stomped.
It was bad. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, he got beat up pretty good.
Yeah. So I want to kind of move on to Bucky. So it's funny in this show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, in this first episode, it's kind of funny how Sam and Bucky never interact. Their storylines don't intersect just yet.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, we're just basically learning about their current circumstances right now separately. So Bucky, when we get to him, it's kind of strange because we're going through this hotel, and there's this assassination by Winter Soldier.
That caught me off guard.
It did me too, because he's like full on Winter Soldier gear. He's still got the long hair, and you could tell this is something that he was woken up for back in years past. And it's really sad because this like kind of younger guy in his 20s coming back from having some drinks with his friends. He's going to go back to his hotel room and study for some meeting he has the next day. He just happens to be in the same hallway where this assassination goes down, and Winter Soldier takes him out, and we learn a little bit more about that circumstance. But this is a nightmare that Bucky has. He wakes up from it, and we kind of jump right from there, him waking up into a psychiatrist's office where he's having a meeting with his psychiatrist.
Yeah, and come to find out that these whole psychiatrist sessions are a part of his pardon. Like, he got a full pardon of for all of his past doings.
Yeah,
but he has to fulfill a few things for that to be it could be in full effect. And I guess not lying and talking about like the nightmares he's having and everything. And I mean, we come to find out that Sam is trying to get a hold of him. He's texting him or calling him, and he's just not responding to any of these messages.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and the psychiatrist tells him, like, you got to embrace, these friends. You got to these few people. If only it's a few, it's just you got to keep on to them. And it's funny because she talks to him in a way that I think he needs to be talked to. Like she doesn't like kind of dance around and beat around the bush with him. Like she's very direct. And then he mentions how she was in combat, and then you kind of understand, like, okay, well, she would understand exactly where he's coming from with his PTSD and how to deal with that and to talk to him specifically. So I thought, like, this was the first real chunk of like character development for Bucky. And if we get more of this, if this is kind of what the show is, with like tremendous action scenes followed by like real character development stuff, like we're in for a treat, man. I love that stuff.
yeah, and I love I think the whole premise behind his character for the show. We learn it here, episode 1. He's looking to make amends for all his wrongs. He's trying to fix those wrongs.
Yeah.
So you have that lady who's in power, but if I remember correctly,
like a senator or a congresswoman or something, and I guess she was put in place by Hydra.
Yeah, and he was basically outing her. Basically, he turned her car into a remote control car, which was amazing. That was fun to watch.
You think that he's messing with her to assassinate her or something, because that's his typical MO.
Yeah.
But really, he did it to scare her and then apologize, to cross her off the list of,
the window comes down. You know who I am. And bye.
Like a 12-step program, basically, like an alcoholic trying to get better.
Yeah. I mean, then basically we go from that, and then we see Sam. I mean, you see him struggling with the shield. The shield is there. He puts the shield into the bag that Cap gave it to him in.
Yeah.
So he was given the shield. I think a lot of people think the misconception is at the end of with Endgame, when he left with the shield, that meant he accepted the shield. He left with the shield, but he never actually accepted the shield.
Right.
I don't think Rogers was like, I'm not walking away with it. This is yours. Now you have to come to grasp with what it means to you.
Right.
And he just struggles with that.
Yeah, and so far this show is treating this world, Sam and Bucky are treating this as though Steve Rogers has passed. Now, I don't know if he's still this old man and he's hanging around this particular universe. I don't know how the timey-wimey stuff works from that in the end of Endgame. If old Steve Rogers went back to whatever time where he stepped out from, or if he's just been living in our MCU this entire time. But either way, he's off the table, it seems like.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get any scene with the digitally aged Chris Evans sitting in a bar talking to him or not. I don't know. We may. It may be a surprise.
It's possible. I mean, I never write anything out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't. You're right. You're right. I think the assumption was that Sam was going to take this thing, so he took the shield itself, but he's not taking the role, and he basically delivers it to the Smithsonian.
But not by choice. If you
right.
caught it in the show, he was ordered.
Yeah.
To return the shield.
Right.
So basically, the U.S. government, DOD, knew he had the shield, and he was ordered to return it. So he didn't have an option of really accepting the shield for himself.
Well, I think it's a bit of both, right? Because the thing does no good sitting on his shelf. If he wanted to be Captain America right away, he just would have done it, but he hasn't. I think he was probably more comfortable with this shield just being a part of the Steve Rogers exhibit at the Smithsonian. Like, it belongs in a museum. Like, I don't think he was very uncomfortable with that premise. And we find out later that the government has its own plans, but that he may not be as comfortable with. But I think the premise of it, the shield being with, his uniform and Steve Rogers, all this memorabilia, just made sense.
Well, did you catch that? I mean, they made a point of, showing it, but the picture of Bucky in like the newspaper clip that was there when they were walking around. Well, that whole thing, when he's having that moment, was like, this belongs to Captain America.
Right.
And when he handed it over, you've seen Rhodey out in the actual audience. It's kind of watching it.
Don Cheadle in a little bit of a cameo. Rhodey coming.
Don Cheadle's awesome.
Yeah, just cameo and everything. Don Cheadle.
That's just a side note. I mean, everything's better with some Don Cheadle in it.
Absolutely.
But then there you see those two just walking through the museum, and they had this like interaction, which tells you a lot about really Sam's mindset right now.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and go over here.
Let's say you're gonna make me ask. Why didn't you take up the mantle?
When Steve first told me about the shield, the first words I said were, "It feels like it belongs to someone else." That someone else is Steve.
It's still Steve's shield.
Yeah.
No matter.
He's going to have a hard time getting through that. And I have a bit of a theory, and we'll talk about it at the end of our discussion here, this particular episode. But yeah, he struggles with it for sure.
And I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, I get it, but somebody has got to move forward. What are we going to do with it? Because everyone knows it's not just going to sit in, in a museum.
Yeah. Well, Rhodey basically tells them, like, we're in desperate times right now, like post-Blip. Like, things are rough because everybody was gone for 5 years and they came back. When people disappeared, it was traumatic. And when people came back, it was also traumatic.
Equally as traumatic, yeah.
Yeah, it was like topsy-turvy. Like, and to get back and to heal, I mean, America could really use a symbol of hope and patriotism and, like, good, like, just good, all the good American ideals, right? The stuff that we typically can't see unless we really look anymore. So, and I agree with Rhodey. It's like, yeah, we could really use that symbol, and I guess the government agrees with that too. We find out towards the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we get that interaction, and then right from there, basically, we have, Sam and his family. He goes back and meets up with his nephews and his sister.
Right.
We learn about the business that his parents had.
Yeah.
I mean,
like a shrimp boat or some kind of like fishing industry they were getting into, and like with a restaurant on the side, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had that going, and his sister was like, you can't come back and just fix this. I'm preparing to sell it.
Yeah.
They can't get a loan, and, all this is going on. And he's like, you know what? I'm a flipping Avenger.
Right. I'm here now.
This is going to be fixed.
Yeah.
And then reality sets in. They go to try to get this loan. He's like, you know what? I've got all these government contracts already lined up. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, they pay in goodwill. And then the bank's like, you know what? They just turn them down harsh. I mean, and it's the reality.
You're turning him down as he's asking for selfies with him.
Yeah, I know. I mean, isn't that the crappiest thing, man? It takes some balls, really.
Yeah, it sure does. Or it's just being completely oblivious. But yeah, that's, that kind of gives us a little bit of backstory of not only Sam and his family, but just like the state of the world right now. Like, apparently stuff has even expanded to the banking industry. Like, they can't offer loans to a lot of people just because of this turmoil from the Blip and then coming back from the Blip. So that's where we're at right now. And yeah, Sam's not able to do what he thought he'd be able to do and kind of come in and swoop in and rescue his family from these financial troubles that they're having.
His sister was mad at him. She's like, I knew this was going to happen. Why did you drag me through this?
Yeah.
When we've been through it, just your name alone and what you've done isn't going to, open up the banks for us.
Yeah, so this is good stuff, good family stuff for Sam. I didn't even know Sam had a family, but now I know his nephews and his sister, and hopefully we'll get to know more people in Sam's family.
Pictures of his parents,
Yeah,
just that whole dynamic that wasn't there pre-first episode of the show.
That's right. So I guess there's more to Bucky too. So Bucky's. Is this where he's having dinner? Oh no, Bucky leaves the psychiatrist, then he goes back to his apartment basically, and he runs into this older Asian man who's having an argument with some young guy about how he's throwing trash in his garbage can, and the young guy's like, "Trash is trash. What's the big deal?" So Bucky kind of diffuses the situation. You find out that this older guy's his neighbor, and they know each other fairly well. He takes him out for some lunch. and they're at I guess like an Asian bistro or something, and the waitress is there, and this
old
old
man
guy
pulled
takes
the old man
shot
trick.
for Bucky.
He becomes the wingman.
Yeah, he was so direct too, and she was into it. She was like, "Sure, why not?" And it was so funny because Bucky is so old fashioned because he's straight out of the fort, just like Cap.
Yeah.
Like, there's a dance to these things. You don't just rush right in like that.
Well, even when he showed up after she agreed to the date, he shows up with flour, and she's like, "Oh, that's so old school cute," or something like that.
Yeah, how old fashioned and cute. Yeah,
Yeah, old fashioned and cute. That's how she put it. And then she breaks out of that old fashioned and cute, and they play an amazing game that I think next time I play Battleship with an adult, I'm playing. If you miss, you take a shot.
Drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every shot you shoot and you miss, you take a shot.
Some drunken Battleship. That is good.
Ooh, that would be a rough game of Battleship. I have a hard time making sure I put the pegs in the right spot as is.
Yeah, and apparently she's a lot better at Battleship than he is because he's losing. Thankfully, he can hold his liquor. Apparently.
Oh man.
But she starts to talk about their neighbor or his neighbor, the Asian guy, and she was appreciative that that he's being so close to him and everything. And she mentioned how he's never been the same since his son had passed away, and it never, he basically died under mysterious circumstances, kind of wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. But it never sat right with him because he felt there was more to that story. And of course, I mean, Bucky knows he was the one. So it's like, I don't think this was like just by happenstance. I don't think he just happened to run into this guy who just happened to kill his son.
He moved in next door immediately.
I think
when he's going through his amends, making things right,
a list.
He purposely found this old man and found that there was an apartment adjacent to him or in the building that he can actually start having interactions with him, and try to find a way to make it right. Which honestly, there's no way to make this one right.
No, there's not. And I can see that struggle because he goes back to the old man's apartment
after his date hits home with what they're talking about.
And you can tell that he intends to tell his neighbor the truth.
The way he leaves that date just on a whim. He's like, you know what?
Yeah.
He says, excuse me. And he walks out and he goes right there.
And then he sees the shrine set up in the guy's house, and it breaks him again, and he can't do it.
Yeah, we get this interaction here.
It was good. God, I owed you for lunch.
Yeah.
The pain in Bucky's eyes. That's what I seen. The pain in his eyes. So I think he's getting to like this old man so much, it's going to tear him apart.
Right.
To tell him what happened and try to ask for forgiveness for doing it.
Yeah. Like what a plot, man. What a predicament that he's stuck in, Bucky is, because it's like, I'm almost like, fulfilling some sort of, or not even fulfilling, but trying his best to be some sort of a son figure to the son that he ripped away from this guy. I'm going to take him out to lunch and just be a friend to him. And then just to well, if I tell him the truth, I'm potentially going to take away this new relationship because he's going to be so angry with me, that kind of thing. So it's like, well, what the hell do you do? And then it's the turmoil of basically kind of like a time traveling assassin.
Yeah. And will he buy it? It's like, will he buy that he's over 100-some years old?
Right. I mean, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow.
It's like, Cap, right? Well, you know how old Cap was.
Yeah, go to the Smithsonian. My picture's up there. You'll believe me at that point.
Yeah, there's a little bit of backstory you need to find out about me.
Yeah.
But, dude, that whole between... Well, the old man even knew something was up. He's like, he didn't come up here for that purpose alone. He didn't know what was going on, but it wasn't just for that.
He's a tortured soul, like literally and figuratively, just like a tortured guy. Like he even says, they woke me up to do these atrocities here and there, and I lived almost 100 years of just this madness and these really dark deeds, and I only had a brief respite in Wakanda when he was able to basically heal for a little bit in Wakanda, and then he went right back into the fight when Thanos was coming down.
Yeah,
and it just kind of never left him. So he's in a really fragile state right now.
And I mean, I think that's why the whole psychiatrist setup is going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
because eventually we see both Bucky and Sam together with this psychiatrist.
right.
So there's more to come. She's not just an afterthought in the first episode. There's going to be more with her and with those two once they have some type of meeting. I mean, they can't drag their feet on it. They only have 6 episodes.
Yeah,
so they have to. It has to probably happen in the next episode at some point. If it's either Bucky reaching out to Sam via a phone call or a text message, responding back to one of them, or something, or it's going to be around the Shield. It's going to be what they both just watched it on television.
Right.
And I really think Sam didn't like it. I think Bucky's going to be pissed.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the Winter Soldier side of Bucky for a minute.
I wonder if he'll take it out on Sam. Like, hey, I watched my best friend give this to you, and in turn you give it up, and now it's in somebody else's hand. I wonder if he'll be mad at Sam about that. But I don't know. We'll see. Because there is some tension. There's always been some tension between these guys. And, it's whether it's kind of a friendly rivalry kind of thing or something deeper. But, I'm all in. Like I said before, this episode was a lot of table setting, a lot of getting to know new characters, a lot of seeing like where we are with our 2 main characters, a lot of introducing the villains with the Flag Smashers. And I think it's going to be like full speed ahead. Like I think like every episode is probably going to get faster and faster paced.
I mean, once again, though, we have to learn who the Avengers are now. Who are they? Because the Avengers were Captain America and Tony Stark.
Right.
I mean, when you thought the Avengers, that's who they were. Now, this is purely the MCU, obviously, but that's who they were.
Or even, Black Widow. Black Widow's dead.
Yeah.
Hulk, like who the heck knows where Banner went off to?
Yeah,
Thor, Thor's off in space with his gut. I think hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the Avengers are disassembled.
yeah, essentially. So I mean, they're all doing their own thing, and they're all over the map. So there's no real central unit. So if something does happen, they can kind of assemble or call somebody or call Doctor Strange or they're all over the place. So it's a mess right now. So I mean, I understand what the U.S. government was doing. I can see how they were like, okay, we need a symbol. We need to replace this symbol just for hope, because I mean the world's in chaos. Because like you were saying, post Blip, everyone come back. I mean, it's a mess right now. Yeah.
But I mean, that was the issue, is that Captain America was more, people loved the Shield and loved the character of Captain America, but like Steve Rogers was the one that people looked up to. And, if Captain America doesn't have the values of Steve Rogers, then it's kind of moot, you know what I mean? And I don't think this guy's going to be a Steve Rogers underneath that cowl.
We were talking pre-show, and I've always been a Team Tony.
Yeah.
I've been a Stark. I mean, it's me. I mean, I just like that jackass personality. I mean, it comes out of me if I have a little bit of drink. And I've never been a Cap guy. Even when they split in Civil War, I wasn't a Cap guy. Even in his movies, I'm like, it's a cool movie. I'm enjoying this, but I'm still not like when they're fighting each other from themselves. At one time, I'm like, sweet, beat the hell out of him. Keep punching him in that beautiful face of his. But I mean, when the U.S. government comes out and they have this press conference, and they go ahead and they tell us what their plans are, I was pissed.
Yeah.
When I seen this schmuck holding the shield. And
right.
Let's just watch it real quick, because I'm getting pissed.
With great honor that we announce here today that the United States of America has a new hero. Join me in welcoming your new Captain America.
Oh, nah.
I just hate watching that. It just, like I said, it just gets my blood boiling when I see him holding the shield. Then they show his face. I'm like, first of all, it doesn't even match. Hell, he might as well just be the fanatic with the Phillies. Well, that's a good question. That's a question I really had immediately as well. Is he a mascot?
Right.
They genetically enhance him like they did Bucky and they did Rogers.
Right.
But we don't. That's a question that's still hanging out there. If they did nothing to him, just walk up to him, smack him, take the shield, and walk away.
Yeah, something tells me he's got some juice. He's juicing. He's got that super soldier serum in him somewhere, or something
that big
along
old
those
chin.
lines.
He's got that Thanos chin going.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the very end of the episode. That's all we get. A pretty great premiere episode, I think, of a show that's going to be satisfying. Man, I'm looking forward to next week, of course. I do want to mention. I kind of mentioned this theory that I have, and I want to run it by you and see what you think. So
go for it.
In the comic books, there's this graphic novel where we learn a little bit more about the development of the super soldier serum. And we learned that historically, Steve Rogers actually wasn't the first test case of the super soldier serum. They, being this in the 1940s and how race relations were at that time, they actually experimented on this one African-American guy. And I forget the name of the character. I wish I would have looked it up before we got on here. That turned out to be like the first Captain America, but they didn't want this guy to be Captain America. You know, they wanted to test the super soldier serum to see if it worked properly.
Yeah.
But they wanted basically the face of America to be this, this pretty blue-eyed, blonde-haired guy of Steve Rogers. They just lucked out that the guy was a good guy. And anyway, so there's this whole secret backstory. I'm wondering if they may incorporate that graphic novel somehow into this story. And when old Steve Rogers is sitting on that bench at the end of Endgame, and Falcon says, this shield doesn't feel like mine, that kind of thing, where he's like, and Rogers looks at him and he's like, well, it is. I feel like there's been some sort of, I think Steve Rogers in his travels has learned more about the history of himself, where he came from. I think he probably learns that there was a test case, and I think we learn who that is. I think that guy's still around, and he may even be related to Sam. So not only did Sam deserve or earn the shield because was Captain America's friend or a good partner for Steve Rogers, but historically,
Steve knew his cousin or his relation was the first.
Right. I think, historically, there was some sort of precedent where his family line was a part of the history of it. I think maybe we may see that. If we don't get to see that, that's okay. It still remains like a terrific graphic novel that's out there. But I thought it would be a really interesting thing. And what better thing would actually bring Sam to the table to strap on that shield and be proud to wear it, if not learning that someone related to him back in the 40s was Cap before Cap was Cap. That'd be something to really draw him in and bring him to it, I think.
Okay, so you're saying this guy that was the original test case would no longer be alive?
Maybe or maybe not. I mean, because if you had super soldier serum, he may just be hanging around as an old man. I don't know. I mean, because Cap lived a long time.
Cap himself was encased in ice too for a while.
Yeah, that is true. So
his life was extended because of that situation.
Right. So I don't know. I can't remember in the comics if he was kind of alive in the current time frame or not. But I don't know. We'll see. I just wanted to bring it up. I kind of wanted to claim my stake here. This is like my Mephisto theory here for this episode, for this series, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
So it's bound to be doomed.
Yeah, probably.
That's funny. No, I knew nothing of this.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. Honestly, it'd be fitting of the time that we live in.
Yeah.
To give, a character of like that, the mantle. Right. I can see people unfortunately having a problem with that because of they don't know anything in the past or any of the history or anything. They're just going to see at face value.
Some people would have an issue with it, but
Marvel doesn't give a damn.
No, Marvel doesn't care. Marvel's just going to tell good stories, and they don't, they know that the people that like good storytelling are going to flock to it anyway.
And the people that will have a problem with it are still going to pay to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. They ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, so I mean, they've got their crowd.
Yeah.
So I know it's a very interesting theory. I honestly
We got 5
probably
episodes left. We'll see where it goes, if at all.
man, 5 episodes. That seems awfully short.
I know.
But I don't know if there's enough time to flush that out though. That's the problem. So if they bring something like someone like that in, or even the history of them in, that's a whole nother backstory episode. That's a whole nother table setting episode.
Right.
So I don't know if they had time to have, say, 2 table setting episodes within only a 6-episode season.
I just wanted to put it out there. So
Oh,
that way, at the
you
end
have
of
these-
episode 6 or at whatever episode, we can look back and be like, Sean was right.
Well,
Hey,
I
man, I
think one
called
of
the
the
Zack Snyder 4x3 thing.
Oh, you did too. Dude, that really irritated me watching that for the first like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I couldn't get past it. Oh man, but
Anyway, that's a whole different comic book.
that may be a whole different show. I'm actually ahead of Sean on that one. I've already watched it. He's watching it tomorrow, which is really funny that I've watched it already and I beat him to it.
Yeah.
But okay, guys. Well, I mean, that was Falcon Winter Soldier episode 1 there, and I hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. We do this every week, just like we did WandaVision, just like we did Mandalorian, and I don't see this after show ending, anytime soon. So I hope you guys, come along and enjoy the ride with us. Like Sean said earlier, if you haven't already, if you're watching us anywhere other place than YouTube, go over to YouTube, smack that like button, subscribe, hit that little bell so you know when we're going to go live too. I mean, it's helpful. But until we see you next week, what do you think, Sean? I'm going to tell them just to keep it cheesy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's just keep it cheesy.
See ya.